Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Stein, postdoctoral fellow at the UCLA Yunus and Soraya Nazarian Center for Israel Studies. I want to welcome you to our very important webinar today, the first in our new series, Scientific and Environmental Diplomacy. We have an incredibly distinguished guest. Professor Yossi Leshem will talk to us about biological pest control using barn owls and how this has reduced the use of pesticides in the Middle East significantly and has connected researchers and conservationists in the region and around the world. The joint study with the Israeli Air Force has also reduced aircraft collisions with migrating birds by 76% and has become an international model. Before I introduce Professor Leshem, I want to thank our UCLA co-sponsors, the Resnick Center for Food Law and Policy at UCLA Law, the UCLA Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, the UCLA Institute of the Environment and Sustainability, and the UCLA Center for Middle East Development. And with that, let's begin. Our guest today is one of the world's great ornithologists and most important birding experts. Over his career researching bird migration and raptor breeding ecology for 5 decades, Professor Yossi Leshem has made so many important discoveries about migratory birds. Professor Leshem is a professor emeritus in the School of Zoology at Tel Aviv University and founder of the International Center for the Study of Bird Migration. In 1971, he began his career at the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel and was later CEO and chair of its public council. He has initiated many successful joint projects with Jordanians and Palestinians using barn owls as biological pest control agents in agriculture, thus combining education, research, and nature conservation. In 2015, Cyprus and Greece joined the project, and in 2021, Morocco as well. Also that year, the United Arab Emirates Minister of Climate Change and Environment expressed great interest to join the project. Professor Leshem has met with world leaders, including presidents, prime ministers, and the Pope, to promote environmental protection. He has received many Israeli and international awards, including the Bruno H. Schubert Foundation Award for World Nature Conservation, the Israeli President and Prime Minister Award in 2023, the Award for Significant Contributor to Israel Aviation from the Israeli Airline Pilots Association in 2019, and also that year, a Medal of Appreciation from the Commander of the Israeli Air Force, and many more awards. Finally, Professor Leshem is the author of 11 books, a wealth of scientific articles, and hundreds of popular articles. Professor Leshem, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. Audience, please think of your questions during Professor Leshem's presentation. Type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and I will get to as many of them as possible during the Q&A portion of our webinar. Professor Leshem, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Elizabeth. My pleasure and my honor. And I want to talk on birds know no boundaries. I'm working for 4 decades with the barn owls on pest control, but it's not a pest control agent, but it's also ambassador of peace. And you see our slogan is the barn owl replaced the dove of peace. So I think that in such an area like the Middle East, now your president of the USA is in Davos, and we believe that if you are talking the environment, you have to work in peace and not in war. But unfortunately, the situation is still complicated here. And on the right side, you see His Majesty, the late King Hussein, shaking a hand with a general from Jordan, General Mansour Abu Rashid, who is one of our partners. On the left side, you see an Israeli general who made with the Jordanian general the peace treaty with Jordan in 1994. You see both of them smiling on the first stage 33 years ago. We tried also to join other countries, and one of our key partners is Professor Alexander Roulen from Lausanne University in Switzerland. Switzerland is a neutral country, and Professor Roulen is a world expert of barn owls. He came to the Middle East, fall in love with the work that we are doing with the Palestinian and Jordanian and studying the barn owls, and he is now a key person of our activity. But before I come to the barn owl story, I want to tell you that being located in the Middle East on a junction of three continents of Asia, of Europe, and Africa, from the political point of view, it's of course a big mess, wars and aggression between countries. But talking on bird migration, this is one of the hot spots of the world. And from our studies, we know now that only over Israel, about 500 million birds migrate twice a year in the autumn and the spring over the Middle East. For example, the lesser spotted eagle. This is a species that the entire world population, 120,000 eagles, fly over the Middle East in 2 weeks. So if you're an eagle lover, that's a big chance to go and enjoy them. In fact, if I have audience from the United States, we have only 2 species of eagles, the bald eagle and the golden eagle. We have here in the Middle East 12 species of eagles. And here you can see the eagles soaring on a thermal. They are using the hot air to gain height and then glide. And all these big raptors, storks, and pelicans, they soar over the continent from Europe and Western Asia over the bottleneck of the Middle East to winter in Africa and then fly back to Europe and Western Asia. Can you see here? About 650,000 white storks fly over the year every year over Israel. All the population of the white pelicans from Europe and West Asia fly over Israel. And the problem is that in many countries, the wetlands where they have to stop every 5 or 6 days to eat at least 1 kilo of fish, but they were dried in the Middle East. So what we are doing in Israel now, we put in a water reservoir feeding the pelicans. You see the water reservoir, pelicans are coming twice a week. Provide them with fish. And when they get the kilo of fish, they can go to Southern Sudan. The pelican learned that they get a free lunch from the Israelis, and as you can see, they gather from everywhere, they get the food, and then they continue the migration.
והיא כחולת נוצה, והיא דקת כנף. זה היה עם בוא הסתיו.
Unfortunately, when they fly over Israel and over the Palestinian Authority in Jordan, the farmers were using a lot of pesticides to try and kill the rodents in the fields. And all these pesticides were killing not only the local population of wildlife and affecting the soil and the people and the water, but killing every year also thousands of birds. For example, here you see in the northern part of Israel, in the Hula Valley, an imperial eagle. This is a global endangered species which was killed in a poisoning in the northern part of Israel. So we try to find a way to stop all this poisoning of migrating birds and trying other system to stop it. So what is the vision of what we are doing? I always like to show this picture of President Bush when the people of the states of USA invaded Iraq. He is standing like a bird watcher with a binocular, but he forgot to remove the cover of the binocular. And when I saw this, I thought maybe it's not so polite to show it to Americans. But fortunately enough, it happened also to our Minister of Defense over a decade ago. So the vision is we don't want to see the Middle East like this, burning with fire and a lot of conflicts between Muslims and Jews. And the way that we are trying to develop is getting Muslims and Jews together. For example, you see one of our groups, which we are guiding them in the areas of the migrating pelicans or the barn owls. They come together, they watch the bird, and the birds are the platform to get people together. And in 1996, on the first stage, we started with the German a big project, and we put 120 transmitter, GPS transmitter on white stork migrating from Germany over the Middle East up to South Africa. Here you can see two guys from our team putting on the back of the white stork a GPS radio transmitter. We gave the stork Jewish name, Christian name, and Muslim name. And I want to show you that we developed an educational system that Palestinian, Jordanian, Israeli group schools could follow the bird. And this is one of the birds migrating from Germany through the Middle East to Sudan. In Sudan, the bird stopped along the Nile River for 2 months. And then at the middle of November, almost at the same week, the bird continued to migrate till the Cape Town, to the southern part of the African continent. And with the radio transmitter, we found out that a stork is wintering every year on the same tree in South Africa. Can you imagine? The bird migrate 11,000 kilometers from a tree in Germany to a tree in South Africa, and Palestinian, Jordanian, and Israeli school children could follow online the migration of the white storks from Germany to Israel. We did with Cornell University the same. They followed birds, waders, red nose from the northern part of Alaska and of Europe, and every dot you can see the birds are moving along the ocean to the Yellow Sea in China. They stop for a week to feed, and then they fly to Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, stayed there the whole winter. And nowadays, with the high-tech technician, we can follow each bird every 5 seconds from the minute they leave their nesting grounds till the areas where they're wintering. You see, they are doing the same route year after year. And what we did with the educational activity, we started with the study of the Germans by Max Planck Institute in Radovzel with Professor Peter Berthold. We also got children from Jordan, from the Palestinian Authority and Israelis coming together to our fish pond, watching birds, and then at lunch making together a lunch, and then they become friends. So this is, of course, a great story for bird migration if you are living in the Middle East. But if you are a pilot in the Air Force, the Israeli Air Force, in the last 3 decades before I studied the study with them, 11 aircraft crashed, 3 pilots were killed, 75 collisions above 1 million each. So, as I said, 3 pilots were killed. One of the pilots who was killed, Captain Ronen Lev, when he was a kid of 5 years old on the Independence Day of Israel. His mother gave me a painting where he painted the flag of Israel, an aircraft flying, and a black bird touching the left wing. This what really happened to him when he was the pilot 23 years ago. So to learn how to avoid this big number of collisions, we put across Israel volunteers from all over the world. Every kilometer or 2, they were standing and counting the number of the birds. In 1991, we have a Russian general, when there was the big migration of birds from people from Russia to Israel, a general who was responsible on the radars, weather radars in Russia, brought one of the radar to our study, and we started to follow the bird migration with a Russian radar. I was also following the migrating bird with a motorized glider. I was flying with the same flock of storks, of raptors, of pelicans every day from Egyptian border till the Lebanese and the Syrian border in the spring, and in the autumn vice versa, starting from the Lebanese border with the same flock till Egypt border. And we used the UAV for the first time in the world. The UAV were used for a positive purpose, and because I did it for the Air Force, I could get them free of charge to follow the bird migration. With this data, we developed in the Israeli Air Force new regulation, bird plowed zone, and the Israeli Air Force stopped to fly on the heights, on the routes, on the time when all these birds were flying over Israel. And immediately, since 1984, the number of air collisions over Israel dropped down by 76%. saving, of course, the life of the pilots and the birds, and saving the Israeli budget $1.5 billion. So this was a great story. Why I'm telling you this? Because I wrote a book in Hebrew and English, Flying with the Birds, which is summing up my study with the Israeli Air Force. In 2000, when this book was inaugurated, our president at that time, the late President Ezer Weizmann, who was the commander of the Air Force, made the ceremony at the President's house with the commander of the Air Force. And the big story was that I wrote Mr. Weizmann a dedication, like the birds. Our slogan was with the students, migrating birds, no boundaries, which I think is also a very strong slogan for peace in the Middle East. So when President Weizmann finished his cadention, he flew with an helicopter to His Majesty King Abdullah of Jordan, and the official present of the president was the book Flying with the Bird, with the same dedication to the King of Jordan. Like the birds, we hope that we know no boundaries. And we even succeeded to get generals from Turkey, USA, Greece, and Jordan to come and learn our studies. In the war, in the last 2.5 years, the commander of the German Air Force came to visit here and even came especially for one day, and he donated blood for the wounded in the area of the Gaza Strip, and to get students together. About 10 years ago, we made a big seminar for 25 top painters near the Dead Sea. As you know, the Dead Sea is dying out. So the idea was to bring the top painters from all over the world and paint 6 days in the Israeli sides and 6 days in the Jordanian side. And we produced two very nice books in Hebrew, English and Arabic under the title Bringing the Dead Sea to Life by the Artist. And we had fantastic paintings by the artists. We even made a huge poster of 3 meters and 2 meters where every artist painted one bird, which you can see when you are coming to the Dead Sea in both sides, in Jordan and Israel. So, as I said, this was a big story of cooperation, educational one and artistic one. But now I want to concentrate on the main topic that was said about the story of the barn owls, which are pest control agent. The idea was not original in Israel. It started, in fact, in Malaysia, where they cut the rainforest and grow thousands and thousands of acres of oil plantation. And they had a big problem with rats. So they established 5,000 nesting boxes, and in 2 years, the owls were eating 90% of the population of the rats. So we decided to try and use the same technique and develop in all the settlements, agriculture areas in Israel, nesting boxes for barn owls. And very fast, we found out that the barn owls started to come into these nesting boxes. And from our studies, we found out it started in Kibbutz Neh Eliyahu in Beit She'an Valley on the border with Jordan, that a pair of barn owls with the chicks feed every year between 2,000 and 6,000 rodents. So the farmers who put the nesting boxes could stop and use pesticides. And the pesticides, of course, affecting not only the migrating bird, but also the people. If you spray pesticide on alfalfa and then you feed the cows with alfalfa, it comes to the milk that we are drinking. So the idea was to get the farmers convinced this is a big story. We got the academy with studies on the barn owls. We got the Society for the Protection of Nature to be the backing, and the government ministry of the regional cooperation and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, where the ministry who also are funding this project since 2002. We produced a lot of educational material. We did a lot of lecture days, bringing Muslims and Jews from Israel to learn about this technique to put the nesting boxes. We produced a lot of books. For example, I wrote a book about the barn owls for children. So we printed it in Hebrew, we printed it in Arabic, we printed it in English, and we made a lot of T-shirts and a lot of merchandise on the burnouts to get the farmers connected. And in Israel, we started, as I said, in kibbutz on the Jordanian borders, Eliyahu, with 14 nesting boxes in 1983. And slowly, it came on a much bigger scale. And in 2008, it became a national project. And now we have 5,000 nesting boxes all over Israel. And since we have so many nesting boxes in most of the agriculture area, the use of pesticides, as you can see before, the blue color was the number of use of pesticides, and now it dropped down by over 60% because of the burnouts who are replacing the use of pesticides. As you might know, the burnouts, when they eat a rodent, a complete rodent, they vomit a pellet. The pellet are the remains of the bones, of the nails, of the fur and the feathers. So with the children in the school, like the story of the Kinder eggs, they are analyzing Palestinian, Arabs from Israel, this pellets to learn what exactly are the owls are feeding off. We made big posters, and the children in the kindergarten, like here, they open their wings, their hand, and they have to measure the wingspan of the vulture, comparing to their wingspan, and calculate how bigger the vulture is, and suddenly they start to admire the birds. We even had last Hanukkah ceremony in Israel, a big event in Schneider Children's Hospital, which is in Tel Aviv area, and about 1,000 children from the hospital, the families, and the staff came to hear about what we are doing with the burnouts and with the completing the griffin vultures. So in 2002, we were lucky to get the Jordanian, as you can see here on the left side again, General Mansour Abu Rashid, who is our partner from Jordan, was the one who was signing the peace treaty together with he's on the left side. On the right side, you can see General Baruch Spiegel, who was his partner from the Israeli army. And you see the late Mr. Rabin, President Clinton. On the right side, the late Majesty King Hussein and Ezra Weizmann signing the peace treaty with Jordan in 1994. And General Mansour told me that for the Muslims, a barn owl is a symbol of bad luck. So you can see here the general holding a barn owl and starting to convince the farmers in Jordan that the barn owls are bringing good luck. And we started to make seminars with the Jordanian and Palestinian farmers together, every time 40, 50 farmers coming together, and suddenly you can see that the Arabs are suddenly become friends of the barn owls, becoming not friends only of the barn owls, but of course of the Jewish and Israeli farmers. And as you can see here in the picture, a farmer from a kibbutz, Tirat Zvi, in Beit Shean Valley, when the Palestinian and Jordanian came to the seminar, immediately he brought dates that he's growing like the Palestinian and Jordanian are growing, and very proudly he provided them with the Israeli dates, and that's another way to become friends. This is a seminar in Jordan that in the end of the seminar, all the farmers and the scientists and the conservationists are dancing together as a symbol of cooperation. The second one from the left is Professor Alexander Roulen from Switzerland that I showed you already his picture. He is not a top dancer, but he's a top scientist. We put also online cameras in the nest of the barn owls in Jordan and in Israel, and the farmers could see how at night, every 1 hour, the barn owls are coming with a rodent for the chicks. Sometimes they feed every night 15 to 20 mice. In 2010, we brought General Mansour to our parliament, to the Knesset, and he gave a lecture in the parliament and met our speaker of the Knesset. We also made an exhibit about the barn owls who are replacing the dove of peace. And you see General Mansour with our former speaker of the Knesset, Mr. Ruby Rivlin, who became later the president of Israel. On the left side, you can see our minister at that time, Gilad Erdan, who was the Minister of Environment and then became our representative in the United Nations. So you can see we are also working hard on decision makers. And here you can see the logo of the Palestinian Barn Owl Project who are joining our activity. And here you can see Jordanian farmers are doing the work. Scientists from Jordan are analyzing the pellets, analyzing how many chicks are in each nesting box. And as you can see, they are even going with our t-shirt. Later on, we got, as already Elizabeth told you, we got Greek and Cyprus to our project. And you can see here the Minister of Agriculture and Environment from Cyprus, Professor Cadiz, visiting Israel and holding proudly a barn owl. And here you can see we are standing in Cyprus together on the left side with Mr. Leventis, who is a philanthropist, who is a keen birder, and he is the president of Leventis Foundation, and he supported our project in Morocco. We started in Morocco a few years ago, and he sponsored all the activity in Morocco and is now deeply involved in what we are doing as the birds in few more countries. This is now the minister, the lady, the Minister of Agriculture and Environment of Cyprus, and we are coming there with our partners from Cyprus, and she is also supporting this project. And as you know, in Cyprus, there is a buffer zone between Turkey and Greek territories, and there are also established nesting boxes on the border as a symbol of cooperation between the Turkish and the Greek sides. And you see here the soldiers of the United Nations from Pakistan, from Russia, together with Professor Alexander Rulen and myself, holding a barn house, and very proud they are taking part in this project. As I said, also Greek joined, and this is Professor Imad Chirkawi from Morocco, who is a professor to ornithology, and he is leading the project, which was funded by Mr. Tasso Leventis in Morocco. And I am very proud to show you the annual meeting in 2016. Exactly 10 years ago, we came to the World Economic Forum in Davos, together with the general, who is the second from the left, with Professor Rulen and with General Baruch Spiegel, and we gave a lecture there on our joint activity. And later on, we were lucky. I did my last sabbatical year in the Tel Aviv University in Lausanne as the guest of Professor Rulen, and we brought on the center of the picture the President Bresset, the President of Switzerland, to come with all the ambassadors in Switzerland. 150 ambassadors came to learn from the general, from the Palestinian and myself, how we can get cooperation through the project of the barn house as pest control agent. So you see here 150 ambassadors in a neutral country in Switzerland learning about the cooperation in the Middle East. You see here the general and myself explaining the president of Switzerland what we are doing. And more than all, the top of the top was 2 years later that we were invited to the Vatican with the Palestinian, with the general, with Professor Olen, to tell the Pope how important this project is, getting Christian, Muslims, and Jewish people together through the project of the barn owl. He was very excited about this visit, and at the end, you won't believe it, the cardinal who hosted us told us that 2 weeks we got 45 minutes with the Pope. He told us 2 weeks ago the king of Spain was the guest of the Pope. He got only 20 minutes, so we were really proud of that. Then we went to Dubai. There was the Biodiversity Expo, and again we came the team on the front of the Swiss pavilion, and we told everyone that, and we got connected to the people of the Emirates in Dubai to get connected also, not only Morocco, Palestinian, and Jordanian. And now we are part of a working group of the world's biggest ornithologist group, is International Ornithological Union, an organization of 3,000 ornithologists. And we have a working group which is called Birds for Peace. We have now 13 countries who joined our activity. We had last year in January the meeting of 13 countries in Greece, and in June this year we have a next meeting in Georgia, because we have now Georgia in, we have Poland in, we have which in Germany in, so, and we have also Zimbabwe and California in this project. So you see, this was the meeting in Greece, and Professor Roulen, the general, and myself gave a big lecture in DLD conference in Munich with 750 people, 750 came to learn about our project, House for Peace. You see the entire public coming to hear about our project. And what we are aiming now, we are trying now to try and get African countries, because all these birds are moving to Africa through the IOU and through, maybe with the help of Mr. Leventis, who is adapting Africa. We try to get 25 African countries joining this project, and many more countries from Eastern Europe and from Asia. And our purpose is from 13 countries to come in the coming years to 50 countries. We had already a conference on the environment in Israel, and we are planning in 2027 to organize, maybe with the help of Professor Steve Zipperstein. This is a good chance to thank him for inviting me to this webinar. Professor Steve Zipperstein is doing a great job of cooperation between countries in the Middle East, and we hope very much that we can come to Geneva, maybe with the center in UCLA, and develop more higher level. We have also a scientific project like the professor on the left, Professor Or Spiegel, and a PhD student of myself and Professor Spiegel, putting transmitters on the barn house in Beit Shean Valley on the border near the Jordan. And you can see here one of the barn house out of 200 transmitters, 36 owls were crossing the Jordan to the Jordan country, and back from Jordan country to our side and to the Palestinian Authority. So we can follow with the study of Shlomo Cain, the PhD student, every 3 seconds where each barn owl is moving. So this is, of course, a big story. And now I just want to show you a new clip which was launched a month ago in Hanukkah in our activity. The artist from Monica Sachs, Shachar, when that was producing this clip, and he is also a famous singer in Israel. We put it in the YouTube, and in 10 days we had, you won't believe it, 135 people penetrating to listen to it. So it's in Hebrew, but you have the English titles.
אני תנשמת, על פניכם חרישית אני חולפת, לבנה כמו רוח רפאים נושפת, לתוך העשב הגבוה שוב צוללת. אני שומעת ומקשיבה הרבה יותר טוב מכם, מזהה איפה ומי זה מחרסם, תופסת עוד נברן ועפה אל הקן. אני תנשמת והזכר אף לא מחזר סביבי, בפברואר הוא נושף כבר בעורפי, אז מצאנו תיבת כינון. אני הטלתי בתחילת מרץ 5 ביצים, ובמים גוזלים עפים פורחים, לחיות בשדה אחר. אני תנשמת ויש אדם שאומר שאני יונה, פרופסור יוסי לשם אגדה חיה, יונת שלום חוצת גבולות יפה צחורה. כך הוא קורא לי כי השת"פ שלנו מייצר תקווה, בין אנשים בין מדינות יש אהבה, למדבירה ביולוגית השקטה. ובשדות העלים נקיים מרעלים, בשני צידי הגבול יש חקלאים שרוצים עתיד טוב יותר. זו המצאה בלב שדה אמור דובר ראשות איבה, זהו ביתי ואליו אני מביאה 5,000 מכרסמים בעונת קינטון. כן, אני ויוסי יצאנו יחד למשימה, להפחית את חומרי ההדברה, לא רק לחלום להמציא עולם טוב יותר. נושמת, בשדה חרישית אני חולפת, זעקה ונשימה אני נושפת, אל תוך לילה של מחר חדש.
התנשמת אהובתי הפכה מביאה מזל רע לידידת החקלאי, וכל מי שנפגש איתה ביום ובלילה מתאהב בה ובכל זה. So we have also projects on the border with Jordan on the bunkers which were used in the war before the 1994 peace treaty. We are now using it for establishing places for the bats to hang. There are 32 species of birds which are insect eating, so we put the places they can hang on the bunkers, and the Jordanian general came to learn to do the same in his plight. We have a big project with Startup Nature that our friends from Toronto are supporting it, the Goldberg's brothers and Mr. Rubinoff, and the idea is to re-establish areas to reflood them for the wildlife in fish ponds and other areas. And here you see the general who is doing the same on the other side of the border with Jordan. So this will be a startup nation story which get a kibbutz Kfar Opin on the border together with a wetland in Jordan. We are also trying to renew the Jordan River, which is really polluted, and here you can see Jordanian soldiers with Israeli soldiers are trying a survey under the title Border for Peace. So the message to take home before I show you the final clip is think out of the box. That's what we are doing. But if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what we are trying to do. We try to go together, and if we go together, we can even fish on a highway. But you have to know where you are going. Look at this. I took it in South Africa about a decade ago. Our public bar is presently not open because it is closed. This is a message from the owner of the public bar. And before I finish, I want to tell you that together with the Dan Alon, who is the CEO of the Society for the Protection of Nature, in the 60 years anniversary of Israel, we made a big ceremony of declining on the national bird of Israel. The Americans have the bald eagle, the UK have the robin, and so on. So we made a big project of hosting, of voting for the birds, and Mr. Shimon Peres, the president, who was a big supporter of our regional cooperation, revealed the hoopoe, which is the hoopoe is the national bird of Israel. Thank you very much for listening. It was a pleasure. And a certain time, and now we have time for some questions. Please, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Leshem, for that fascinating presentation on the Barn Owl Project, which has connected so many people, from farmers to conservationists, school students, bird enthusiasts around the world, and providing ongoing opportunity for world leaders to meet, support, and collaborate on such important environmental issues. Okay, thank you, audience, for your many superb questions. I'll pose a few at once to you, Professor. We have a question from a member of the audience who's interested to know if there are barn owls here in California. The audience member says that in California, we're losing mountain lions due to rodenticides. Second, someone has asked if Israel uses wind power, and if so, if your research can help to avoid bird and wind turbine collisions, and if there are countries using your research around their wind energy turbines. And a third question for now. We have a question from a Mr. Tony Tucci, chair of the nonprofit CLAW, who says that their nonprofit has been inspired by Israel's Barn Owl Box network, tried to create an infrastructure in Los Angeles, but it reached only 5% occupancy in their boxes. Are there opportunities for collaboration outside of Israel in North America?
Okay, so first question. You know, the barn owl is a cosmopolitical bird. It's nesting all over the world, only not in Antarctica. So in the United States, of course, there are barn owls, and California is a great country for barn owls. And in fact, there are several researchers who are monitoring and already putting boxes in vineyards and other areas. So wherever you have rodents, you will have barn owls easily. The only thing is that you have to put nesting boxes. If you have only 5% occupancy, don't give up. If the population is growing up of the rodents, also the number of the nest boxes will rise. It is changing, and the barn owls are depending on the population, of course, of the rodents. So California is a great country for developing it. And in fact, I'm hosting on Saturday, on Sunday, a very nice lady from California who is supporting our project. And I hope that we are going to discuss how to develop this with California. And we have a professor in California who is already deeply involved in this. About the wind turbines, you know that we are trying to find alternative energy also in Israel. But unfortunately, some places there is a big conflict between wind turbines and bird migration, because the wind turbines are located in places where you have good weather conditions for rising air. So on one hand, you want to have alternative energy. On the other hand, you have to be careful. And in the Golan Heights, near the colonies of the griffon vultures, there are wind turbines, and there are now people who are monitoring the movement of migration. And when there are coming flocks of birds, they have to stop the wind turbines. And the NGO who wanted to join us are most kind invited to write me. Professor Steve Zipperstein got my email and my telephone, but you can send an email. And through this project, we have now 16 people with the support of the Ministry of Agriculture and Regional Cooperation, and we'll come back to you. And we are very keen to get on a bigger scale.
Okay, thank you. And we have a few more excellent questions from our audience. Someone is interested to know if it has been difficult to continue your project and connections since October 7th. Another person is interested to know if you see significant changes in land use in the areas where your barn owls help to reduce pesticide use, and how does that impact your work?
Okay, the first question, unfortunately, of course, it impacted dramatically our joint venture, because, you know, for example, with the Palestinians, we succeeded to get them with the farmers meeting each other, but you need, because of the political situation, permits for the Palestinians to come into Israel, and it worked perfectly. We got all the connections. Now, with the war, we couldn't make all these meetings in the Palestinian areas and in Israel. So the idea is that the Jordanian and the Palestinian are continuing the project, but each country are doing it by themselves. With the meetings are only through webinars, or meeting in like in Greece, or like in Georgia this time. That's one point. The other point is, because all this 7th October disaster in the northern part, because of the bombing of the Hezbollah from Lebanon, there were many fires, and the number of the nesting boxes dropped down dramatically by the barn owls on the area where all these missiles fall down, and the same with fires around Gaza Strip. So if you have war, you are missing the battle if you want to protect the environment. We all are very keen that this war will stop and the situation will come like before, and hopefully sometime the peace will come in this very sensitive area. That was one point. The other point about changing the situation, of course, the farmers will grow whatever they have benefit for them, for their income. So and that was the point that also the Jordanian and the Palestinian farmers understood. If you have an alternative solution, you can export to Europe in a better price, that you can see there are no pesticides in your dates or in your vegetables. So this is a big benefit, which is cheaper for the farmer and is also giving you a better price for your products. But they don't change the product. If you grow dates, you will continue to grow dates. If you grow vegetables, you continue vegetables. But the barn notes are doing the job. And as I said, we made a lot of education. It's not only putting boxes. We made a lot of education with the video cameras, with lecture. We have every year a lecture day. We have these meetings. So this works very well.
Okay, we have several more excellent questions. I think we have time for a couple more. One member of our audience would like to know, what are the next steps for this project? Someone else is interested to know how you make your partnerships with Palestinians and Jordanians.
Okay. So the first one, our next steps are, as we said, this method, we started with 14 nesting boxes in one kibbutz and become with 13 countries. We are very ambitious now to go on a much bigger level, and that's the reason we joined a working group of the International Ornithological Union to get as many countries who will join this. For example, in Africa, many countries still believe that barn owls bringing bad luck, and they shoot them and they kill them. So we have to change their mind, like we succeeded with the Palestinian and the Jordanian. So this is our main message. Of course, we want to make meetings because, as I said, the barn owls in conflict areas are doing the job. We have now a partner in Ukraine, which in Germany, there is a big NGO which is called NABU. They are supporting Ukraine. So the Ukraine will be coming. We are also bringing, hopefully next time, people in our meeting from Poland, from Romania, from Hungary, and from Russia. So you see, the barn house can get people together. How we started is a very interesting story. I was in 2002, a general from Israel invited generals from Jordan to go on the bed after the peace treaty was signed and meet Israeli generals and go in the field to the battlefields and to meet again, but this time not as people who are shooting each other, but are becoming friends. And I told the general, please, get me these generals for 1 hour when they cross the border. We have a kibbutz there, Kfar Upin, on the border. I want to show them a nesting box with the chicks. It was on the nesting season. And maybe I get them excited. And he said, no, these are generals. They are not interested in birds. I told them, let's try. So they came. I gave a 1 hour activity with the chicks. And suddenly one General Mansour Abu Rashid, told me, Yossi, I'm heading now an institute in Amman, which is called Amman Center for Peace and Development, ACPD. I want to join it. Please get me in. I raised the funds, and he became my best friend. And we are meeting now since 2002. He came to my home to have dinner. I came to his home. We are crossing borders. For example, 2 years ago when we came to Switzerland and we met the Pope, it was the Ramadan. In the Ramadan, they don't eat. I was in my sabbatical here in Switzerland. So in the evening, when he was in his hotel, I had my apartment. My wife made for him the soup that they like to eat at the end of the fast of the Ramadan. We bought him dates that he can eat because the Muslims like to eat dates at the end of the Ramadan. And we bought a big watermelon, which they like to eat after the fast. So you see, that makes the contacts.
Okay, I have one more question from myself. I learned that there's a romantic relationship between an Israeli barn owl and a Jordanian barn owl. And can you update us on the romance? And I'm also interested to know which one is the mother, if there is a there is a mother.
So I finished with a joke. But this we had already 5 times. First of all, as I told already in the presentation, the barn owls from Israel crossed to Jordan and to the Palestinian Authority, and we taught the Jordanian how to put the radios on the birds, and they are doing it now by themselves, and they are coming to Israel. This is no problem crossing borders. They don't care about borders. Only the people, the crazy people. We have a lot to learn from these barn owls. They don't care. But we have already till now 5 times that we have a pair that the male was an Israeli, the female was a Jordanian, or vice versa. Okay, and they got chicks, and they don't care, of course, on the border. Because we are putting rings and radios them, so we can immediately find out what's going on. Now, once I gave a presentation in the parliament, and the minister of religious asked me, so what are the chicks? They are Jewish or Muslims? Can you imagine? What do you mean? This barn house don't. But when we can, with this I finish, when we met the Pope, at the end of the meeting, that was also in the Ramadan, and it was on Shabbat. I took a hotel near the Vatican, and we came to the Pope. And in the end of the meeting with the Pope, he was so impressed that Muslim, Christian, and Jews are working so nicely together. And before we left, he said, please, tonight, you have to pray on my soul, and I'll pray on your soul, of the three of you. So we were very proud on this final meeting with the Pope. So Thank you very much again for the Institute. Special thanks to Professor Steve Zipperstein. Thanks to you and to Gage, who took responsibility on this. And come to Israel to see the project. Between March and August, whenever you come, we can take you to the nesting boxes of the barn house.
Wonderful. Well, audience members, you've heard your invitation. Professor Leshem, thank you for sharing your important work on the project with our community. Thank you, audience, for your excellent questions. And I want to end with a note to please check our website, the UCLA Nazarian Center for Israel Studies, for our many forthcoming programs in the next few weeks, both here at UCLA and online, including on February 3rd, the next event in this series, Scientific and Environmental Diplomacy, where Professor Elon Arar from Ben-Gurion University will discuss integrated water management in the region. I just want to mention one more very important event for our audience members in Los Angeles. On February 25th, the center will hold our annual Harry C. Sigmund Distinguished Lecture here at UCLA with guest of honor, Ambassador Ronen Hoffman, recently Israel's ambassador to Canada, and in the 1990s, a member of the Israeli delegation to peace negotiations with Syria. Ambassador Hoffman will speak about future paths for Israeli politics and security. So you see those events on your screens now, and you can find registration links in the chat. Please keep yourselves updated about future Nazarian Center programs and find recordings of past events on our website. And once again, I want to thank our co-sponsors for this excellent program, the Resnick Center for Food Law and Policy at UCLA Law, the UCLA Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, the UCLA Institute of the Environment and Sustainability, and the UCLA Center for Middle East Development. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Professor Leshem. Everyone, have a wonderful day and rest of your week.